Cambridge Film Show.
Cambridge Radio.
Good morning and welcome to, good afternoon even, and welcome to 2026's first edition of the Cambridge Film Show, broadcasting live here on Cambridge Radio throughout the city and South Cambridgeshire. It's January and the Golden Globes have already been and gone, which means awards season is in full flow, and thus we have so many high-profile releases to cover today that we cannot muck around with witty intros. I'm Emma Marchant, clinging onto the host chair for yet another year, but sharing today with the deliciously eloquent Luke Irwin.
Hello.
And joining us with opinions galore are the erudite Vicky Eyre, excellent cinema partner for January, can highly recommend.
Hello.
Matt Taylor.
Hello.
Yossi Osman.
Hello.
And Nick Kitchen.
Hello.
We are spoiled. We have 3 brand new cinema releases from yesterday. Part 4 of the post-apocalyptic zombie horror 28 franchise of 28 years later, The Bone Temple. Brendan Fraser finds solace in playing stand-in family members for Japanese strangers in Rental Family. And we look at urgent political Gaza drama, The Voice of Hindra Jab.
And we also have a whole bunch of films to catch you up with since our extended Christmas break. Most notably, there's Timothée Chalamet in the highly acclaimed Marty Supreme, which reopens the age-old discussion of the greatest ever films made about ping pong. Take notice, any fans of Balls of Fury out there. Elsewhere, we have another Oscar contender in Hamnet, which gives us a glimpse into the life of William Shakespeare and his wife as they grieve the death of their son. We'll also discuss Sentimental Value, which reteams Joachim Trier and Renate Reinsve, the director and star of the Cambridge Film Show favourite from a couple of years ago, The Worst Person in the World. To lighten the mood, you'd think, Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson star in the true life story of a Neil Diamond tribute act in Song Sung Blue. And finally, I get my obligatory Netflix rom-com as we discuss the adaptation of Book Talk favourite People We Meet on Vacation. But let's get started today by holding our breath and hoping that 28 years later, The Bone Temple handled that very strange creative decision at the end of its last film, you know the one, with grace and tact. Here's the trailer.
This is a memorial to the dead.
So, is this all you're doing?
It is.
Are you Old Nick?
Old Nick? You mean Satan?
Yes. Old Nick released his demons unto the world of man. And the world of man fell.
Filmed back-to-back with 2025's 28 Years Later, this zombie sequel, or fourquel, if you take 28 days and 28 weeks into account, sees Alex Garland still in the writer's chair, but Danny Boyle handing over the director's reins to Nia DaCosta before allegedly taking them back for number 5. We pick up directly from the end of the last film. Young Spike has been introduced into Sir Jimmy Crystal, Jack O'Connell's gang, and Rafe finds Dr. Kelso is working on his relationship with alpha-infected Samson, Chi Lewis Parry, to the strains of Duran Duran. Vicky, 28 years later was really long awaited, obviously. It was a long break before that one came out, and it was a massive critical and audience big hit. So DaCosta had some really big shoes to fill with this one. Not least, I think, being an American director amongst such a British franchise. Do you think that she managed to continue the journey?
Yeah, absolutely, and she's done it very well. I think Danny Boyle took a step back because he needed a rest just from making the first and the third part of this series to come back, and she has definitely taken on the reins. I think 28 years later, although I'm not a massive fan of zombie films in particular, I love horror, but zombies do actually scare me, to the fact that it was quite emotional. There's a lot of emotional connection in that, and that is very Danny Boyle. However, Nia DaCosta has gone into this, and you're kind of affronted with just, with the end of the last film, a lot of violence and a lot of gore in the first half, which I very much appreciated, because you got to some key things that I didn't see in the first film. If anything, the first film could be a lovely kind of mother and son relationship in the north of England, which I very much appreciate. But this is, it's definitely taken its roots, and it's hard to watch in some parts, but it's so fast-paced that I was just keeping up with the story. And then Ralph Fiennes is he's absolutely incredible, because from all the gore you get a break, and I think that's so needed when you're visually experiencing that. You need the small interludes, which he created this kind of respite with his scenes with Samson, with an incredible soundtrack. And although a lot of the kind of British element was maybe gone from this one, which Danny Boyle does bring with his films, I think it was still kind of represented as a really good horror film. And this really did take me by surprise. I didn't expect this to come so fast, and I didn't expect to love it as much. And I think it was a 5-star cinema experience, and I just completely blew me out the water, which I did not expect from Nia DaCosta.
Okay, Matt, Vicky alluded to that. We know that like we say, that Jimmy Savile coda, which I kind of personally see as part of our shared British guild. You could talk for hours about this, but maybe it's not that interesting. However, it does take front and centre in this, and this violence, as Vicky suggested, is overtly violent, is overtly ritualistic, is borderline satanic in parts. Did you find this too much?
I think I did find it too much. I found the Jimmy Savile stuff quite distasteful, to use such a horrible section of events as essentially window dressing, because we never really get a compelling reason for why Jack O'Connell's character has started this cult of Jimmy, and he seems to just use it as an excuse to just go around torturing and murdering people, which I just didn't enjoy watching. I mean, I'm a bit of a gorehound. I like horror movies, but I like there to be a bit more of a point to it. I mean, if you think of the first 28 years later, there was a lot of violence in that, but it all had a point. It was fleeing from zombies. It was that set of soldiers from Europe getting absolutely murdered by the Alpha in the tunnel. That was all brilliant, whereas just seeing Jack O'Connell's murder cult being horrible to people, I didn't really enjoy. So this film really did let me down from what I was hoping for from the second instalment of this. But Ralph Fiennes is just absolutely nailing it. I think it could be his best performance ever, in terms of every line he delivers is absolutely magnetic, and he's so funny, and just contrasting his demonic appearance with being a really sane, down-to-earth person who's responding in a really beautiful way to the horrible situation they find themselves in. But the film itself, I didn't think it really achieved anything. I mean, in the first one, we got Spike learning about his father and taking his mother on a journey to learn about dying with dignity and having a good death, which is a really beautiful story. Whereas in this, Spike's journey is just he's inducted into a cult for a bit.
But I don't think this is Spike's journey, though. Sorry to interrupt, but we've got a lot of films to I was going to come to Nick. Is this not more... I mean, Samson also, the alpha zombie from 28 years later, and Ralph Fiennes' relationship, Dr. Kelso's relationship, that's more of the kind of Spike mother relationship, or Spike Doctor from the last one. So I'm with Vicky. I had a 5-star experience with this, and I think you needed the absolute horror of human nature to then enjoy the incredible catharsis in that final scene. What would you say?
I would agree with that. The first half of this movie, I thought it was really nasty, and I was not enjoying it. It was too much for me. And then, as I agree, the second half of that catharsis, thank goodness for Alex Garland, because he had a plan to this plot. This film is about cults, really, and how we treat each other as human beings. And I think the torture and the horror in the first half is then juxtaposed with the way Samson is as he has a virus, but he is acting not with malice as such. He's acting because this is what his nature has become, if you like, and then that is explored through, I think we can all agree, a brilliant performance from Ralph Fiennes. And I think that exploration and the juxtaposition of the two is what the point is about, the violence, Matt. So I would disagree on that. Although I did not enjoy the violence, I found it very difficult to watch, particularly the section in the farmhouse, which goes on for quite a long time, I should point out. Warning to anyone listening, it isn't for the faint-hearted.
No, it is an 18.
It is a full-on 18, and there are gorehounds in this in here. But I found that a hard watch. But it was. I did feel it was there for a purpose, which was then counterpointed in the second half of the film. And the only final thing I want to say was I thought that Chi Lewis Parry's performance as Samson, who's this one of the zombies, shall we call it?
Alpha zombie. He's the alpha zombie.
An alpha zombie, yeah, exactly. Was a remarkable performance. I can't quite put my finger on why, but it was an understudy in passive aggressive rage.
I don't think any of us had maybe Ralph Fiennes and Chi Lewis Parry as kind of zombie doctor.
No, I mean,
romantic comedy. Luke, very quickly over to you because we've got so little time. But what would you say? Where are you going to sit? Are you giving us a 5-star experience? Great experience? Lived up to the last one?
I definitely agree with a lot of what's been said here. I think if you say anything about this film, you have to admire that it really swings for the fences in some really ambitious ways. As much as I agree with Matt that I didn't care for the depiction of these people dressed up as Jimmy Savile, which really did undermine a lot of my viewing experience, because it's so hard to look at this banality of evil contrasted with something so overtly cartoonish, and I really struggle to understand what that was saying. But in the moments where, as we've all said, when Ray Fiennes is on screen and he has some really caricaturous, over-the-top, really hamming it up moments, the film really comes alive. And I was very much worried about what this film would look like without a British director, without an acclaimed director. And I think Nia DaCosta has, I think, exceeded a lot of our expectations with what she's done with this film.
Agreed. I think this is what we're going to be talking about afterwards in the pub. I feel like there's a lot of discussion to be had. I also think it's the first big hit of 2026. That's 28 years later, The Bone Temple. It is a well-deserved certificate 18 for gore and very strong violence and language, and it's showing at the Light and the Everyman.
And we turn our attention now to another film that's fresh to the big screen, although a rather different one. Rental Family. It stars Brendan Fraser as a struggling actor living in Tokyo who comes across a rather odd new role.
The market here isn't the same anymore. It's half the rate, twice the work. But I got you a gig and the pay is actually pretty good.
What's my part? So, what do you think we do here?
We sell emotion.
How?
We play roles in the clients' lives. Parents, siblings, boyfriends, girlfriends, best friends, and help them connect to what's missing.
I'm just an actor. I don't know how to help people.
What I'm offering here is a chance to play roles with a real meaning.
What do you need me for?
We need a token white guy.
I think you could just isolate the music for that trailer and it would give a pretty comprehensive review of the type of film that this is. This is a film about a man who acts as a, quote, rental family, taking on the role of stand-in figures during important moments of strangers' lives. Yoz, believe it or not, this is based on a real service. And I think maybe, you know, that just goes to show that you can't rule out the Japanese for any idea. But it feels like such a wacky Hollywood high concept. So my question is, like, did this feel stranger than fiction?
Not for me, actually, because I actually know about rental, the real world concept of rental services in Japan, because I've seen it in a documentary. So I kind of knew where this was coming from. But what I liked about this film is it doesn't actually feel stranger than fiction. It's in the sense that this is a very grounded film, I feel. And what in talking about this kind of concept of rental families, which may sound unusual to some people, we're exploring real themes about kind of belonging, isolation, loneliness. And Brendan Fraser, at the heart of this, is very, very good. He seems to be playing isolated figures quite well at the moment. So this is another hit for him. I think with that, we're going to talk about a lot of emotional films this show, I think, that hit on some real emotional buttons. And this one does it in a very kind of understated way, which I really appreciated. It's quite contemplative, it's quite quiet, but when it hits those emotional notes, it does it very, very well. And I kind of didn't expect that. I mean, it was like a gentle sort of film, but still making you feel something. And I would recommend this one for sure.
Terrific. And Vicky, I mean, yours has mentioned there, Brendan Fraser. This feels like the sort of film that doesn't get made anymore, which is a star vehicle for an actor. And when you see Brendan Fraser cast in this role, you think, yes, absolutely. How did you get on with this film?
I think you've just pretty much nailed it. I think me and Emma came out of watching this last night and we were very much, yeah, you're right, it's an emotional vehicle, and after watching it, I can't see another actor fulfilling that role as well as he did. It was almost as if his, resurgence, which we have talked about, and although I wasn't a massive fan of The Whale, I am a massive fan of Brendan Fraser in general, and this film had catered to him, but I'm not going to say that it's a bad film because of that. It was very well rounded with his performance in general, and I think if you make a film for an actor, that's fine. It's just another really good film that's going to be out there. I think there was definitely a lot of standout performances in it. Obviously, he is the main character and he is the beating heartbeat of this film. But you also have him alongside Akira Emoto, who plays Kiku in the film. He forms this relationship as there's a lot of family relationships and dynamics. And I think I was trying to I was going along with the story and reflecting on my own family dynamics with it. And I think that's why it was such a beautiful piece. But I think the relationship with him in the film in particular, he plays an estranged, not an estranged, but a Japanese actor that's fallen out of the limelight, which the actor himself has been in over 200, 300 Japanese films. And it's almost as if he was telling his own story throughout the film. He's a massive... basically, he's a massive actor in Japan. He's in a lot of corrida, and I just felt that everything about this had real life delicacies and touches. And it could have went two ways coming out of that. It could have been too cheesy, but it doesn't. It's just the exact kind of tone that you want to feel. It's so heartwarming.
Well, I mean, we've got 2 for 2 for heartwarming. Emma, can we make it 3?
Absolutely 3 for 3. I wasn't expecting this film to be, as both Vicky and Yoz have said, as gentle, as thoughtful, as centred. It just, because I really did not like The Whale at all. But Brendan Fraser in this, I can't imagine another face that would be as open. His expressions are so malleable. Your heart is open from the beginning. It stays open. Let me also say that Takahiro Hira, last seen as a Shido in Shogun, who plays the boss of the rental family agency, if you like, and he has his own story and his own path as well. It's another really, really great performance. And this is half in Japanese, half in English, and uses Tokyo as a character as well really, really beautifully. It's just a lovely, lovely film.
Terrific. Well, it's nice to get a really positive review and something that feels quite counter-programming to a lot of what's on out at the moment, as we'll establish later on in today's show. That is a rental family. It's Certificate 12A, and I believe it's showing at all 3 Cambridge cinemas. That's the Light, the Everyman and the Picture House.
Thank you, Luke. From 21st century families to 16th century families, let's take a listen to the trailer for Hamnet.
Is it true? You know everything about a person by touching them here?
Not everything. He's got more inside of him than any man I've ever met.
Who are you looking for?
William Shakespeare.
I have no talent for waiting.
The women in my family see things.
Based on Maggie O'Farrell's 2020 novel and co-written by herself and director Chloe Zhao, Hamnet comes garlanded with a ready-made Oscar for Jessie Buckley and all the tears in the world. It tells us an alternative story of Shakespeare and his family life. Paul Mescal plays Shakespeare and the aforementioned Buckley, his wife Agnes, which is another version of their name Anne. Historically, she was apparently both Agnes and Anne, a woman at one with nature. In this version of events, it is the loss of a child, the titular Hamnet, which then leads to one of Shakespeare's finest and most famous artistic moments. Nick, I'll come to you. I mean, we've had a lot of people who've seen this, so we'll whiz through it. The fanfare surrounding this film has been deafening. However, the love for those who are viewing it seems to be split along the lines of who's read it and loved the source material, that is me, and who is new to it, who don't maybe seem to be fonder of the film than those who've read the book. Which camp do you fall into, and did you really love this?
So I haven't read the book, and I'm very keen to get your thoughts on it, Emma, because I know that you have, and probably have strong views in that respect. So I come to this without much fanfare at all. I will say the things that I didn't like about it first, which was I'm not quite sure what this film was supposed to be about, and that may sound a slightly odd thing to say because I think we've already established it's about how the death of Anne Hathaway and William Shakespeare's child, Hamnet, influenced the play Hamlet, which they establish at the start of the film actually in the medieval period was, it's just a question of spelling, it's probably pronounced exactly the same way. In the medieval period, and this is someone who was an archaeologist for many years, infant death or childhood death was very commonplace, as I think most people know. So the exception here for them to lose a child, I wasn't entirely sure why their story mattered above the countless thousands of other stories that are out there that are going through some horrific and horrendous things. And the story is well told. I'm not saying that they don't lay out the story and the facts of what happened very well, but I wasn't sure why I was supposed to be so invested in their personal tragedy. That said, that may seem a little bit unfair. I will say two very positive things. Jessie Buckley's performance is fantastic. Paul Mescal, I felt, was pretty underused, and I thought he hammed it up quite a lot, actually, which is ironic, because I think he's one of the finest actors of his generation. So, he's a wonderful, wonderful actor, but I thought he was not particularly interesting in this movie. And the second thing that I'll say that did save it for me was the ending, where they tie... Jessie Buckley gets to understand where Shakespeare is coming from in his grief and how he's sharing it with the rest of the world. And there is a response to that I talked earlier about how infant mortality or child death in the medieval period was commonplace. That comes through at the end of the film, and I thought that was well done. I don't want to give too much away, so it got a big tick for me in that respect. But as a movie as a whole, I wasn't kind of... What's this?
You don't sound
like...
You sound a little bit like me, not wowed. But I also think Paul Mescal is a charisma vacuum. So there you go.
I didn't get his performance in. I'll give it a solid 3 stars if I had to.
He didn't seem as fun as Shakespeare would have been. I mean, I imagine Shakespeare was much wittier than that. Anyway, moving on. Matt, Chloe Zhao wowed us all. Well, wowed a lot of us, obviously, with Nomadland. But then she was sort of sectioned into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that was The Eternals, which, let's face it, was not a great hit. Do you think that this adaptation showed directorial flair by Zhao?
I think she definitely has a very clear directorial voice. I haven't seen Nomadland, although I have seen Eternals, and I didn't think it was too bad. The issue I had with this is that it felt like emotional manipulation, and I know that might seem like a strange thing to say, because all films are trying to make you feel something, but the machinery just felt extra visible in this, because obviously it's centered on the death of a child, which as a parent is about the worst tragedy you can imagine, and it's just very much lingering on the mechanics of grief. So Jessie Buckley sort of screaming at the sky about the death of her child, which is, possibly accurate, but it doesn't really feel like it's doing anything that interesting with it, in my opinion. And the soundtrack is just permanently hitting you over the head with exactly what you should be feeling at any one particular moment. So whilst I think it was very well acted, I thought the central two were phenomenal, as was the child actor playing Hamnet.
Jacoby Dupe.
Yes.
And that's his brother then.
And it's his brother, yeah. So his brother then pops up in the final kind of staging of Hamlet, which I thought was a nice touch. But overall, it just left me feeling a little bit hollow because of how see-through some of the manipulation was.
Okay, Vicky, there's been a lot of talk about emotional manipulation. There often is with these kind of big award-grabby films, but I was interested because Nick's comment is exactly what my husband said when he came out, which is that, so many kids were dying in the 60s. You didn't necessarily expect all your children to make it through to adulthood. So maybe we're looking at a 21st century sensibility at 16th century loss, if you see what I mean. And I think as well, in the book is much more focused on Agnes as a character, as this sort of slightly spiritual, almost like sort of white witch type, really, at that time, prior to the Crucible and that kind of thing. Did you feel emotionally manipulated in a good way?
I'm a big fan of this film, so I've just had a hard time listening to the past few minutes. No, this is Agnes's film, and this is absolutely my take that Jessie Buckley will most likely get Best Actress at the Oscars, because she was phenomenal. I've seen Jessie Buckley. She's come up through she's played some very strong and maybe disliked characters, but this character of Agnes is to be liked. She is relatable. She is a strong person throughout, and I thought it was quite funny because I saw this with a lot of my friends they didn't grow up here in England, and they just didn't feel the Shakespearean connection the way that maybe I myself of audiences watching it across England may do, because we grew up with Shakespeare, but we never got this point of view. But we were very much there with the material, especially when there were kind of links it all at the beginning by saying that Hamnet in Elizabethan times was the same as Hamlet. So you're there with it. You know the source material. You're already expecting. And although the manipulation, yes, the soundtrack very much portrays how you're meant to be feeling. It's almost cathartic that everyone around you is also in emotional distress. And I made the biggest mistake by thinking, although I am a softie, I did not bring my tissues with me, and at some points struggling to breathe throughout that was really, I think it makes it memorable, but also that a performance can still do that. I think a performance that strong that can still kind of bring it out of you is a very powerful thing in film.
Okay, Jos, I'm going to come to you. Are you on Vicky's side or are you on our side?
Find me Team Switzerland firmly in the middle. I'm very conflicted on this one. I think I liked the first and the third acts better than what was happening in the middle. I do agree that there is a sense of emotional manipulation here. I also think there's an issue with pacing. There's parts of the film that I feel kind of meander on a bit too long with not much happening, and you're sort of like, well, what's going on here? But what I did really like, it's interesting that you mention Agnes as a character and how she's a bit spiritual, because I loved that element of it.
There's so much of that in the book, and that's why I found this so dull, because I didn't think they tapped into that.
I wanted more of that, because those scenes of Jessie Buckley in nature were really well shot, and I really liked those. And Jessie Buckley, yes, absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad she's getting her flowers for this, because she is really, really good. And I did actually really like the last bit where it's very focused on Jessie Buckley's face, her reaction to what's going on stage. For me, that kind of represented what Shakespeare did and how amazing it would have been for people to watch that at the Globe Theatre. All the reaction shots, I thought that was so well done. So yes, there are some flaws, but I do think, because I want to end on a positive, that there's some good stuff too.
I think you should definitely end on a positive. That is Hamnet. It's a certificate 12A, and it's showing at all the Cambridge theatres.
Up next, we're going to have a chat about The Voice of Hind Rajab. It's a Tunisian language docudrama, so we don't have a trailer for this one. But before we dive right in, we should warn listeners that this film and our discussion of it is going to address some distressing topics concerning the war in Gaza. The film is a docudrama piecing together real audio footage of an emergency phone call alongside dramatised accounts, and it depicts the Red Crescent response to the killing of Hind Rajab, a 5-year-old Palestinian girl, by the Israel Defence Forces during the Israel invasion of the Gaza Strip. Vicky, you saw this one this morning. How are you feeling?
I think the horror basically portrayed in this dramatised event is kind of unfathomable. It's quite difficult to speak about, because essentially the film speaks for itself throughout. It is a very adrenaline-filled 90 minutes, and I think it can't be any longer than that, because the emotional pacing of this film, it keeps you there the whole time at a heightened level, so much that when you come out you're exhausted. And realistically, it's just one of those experiences that I think is very important to screen, and I'm very glad that it's being shown on a wider scale.
Okay, you said they're adrenaline filled, so I'll come to you next, Matt, because that to me makes it sound more like a thriller. Was this a thriller, or was this more of a drama?
Well, definitely more of a drama, but the thrill comes from just seeing the characters in the sort of control centre. So we're sort of focused on a call centre for the Palestinian Red Crescent as they desperately try and organise a rescue for a 6-year-old girl who's trapped in a car that's been shot at by some soldiers. And there's a quote on the poster for this film that says, some films you watch and this film will be one you have to live with, and you can't go back to having not seen it. I mean, there's so much cruelty and awful things happening in the world that you can't process all of it, and this is just shining a spotlight on one awful thing that happened. In that sense, it's similar to Warfare from last year, where there's no explanation of why this has happened. There's no wider geopolitical context. It's just one awful day in these characters' lives as you see them try and process a little girl who we're repeatedly told is only 8 minutes away from rescue, but that 8 minutes might as well be 8 million minutes for how long it takes to actually coordinate moving around within Gaza with what's currently happening. And yeah, on a personal level, I don't think I've ever been more emotionally devastated by seeing something on the big screen. So I guess I'd finish by saying, if you're having a good day and you're absolutely desperate for that to stop, then go and watch this. But yeah, one of probably the most important things I've seen in the cinema in a long time.
Well, Yossi, you watched this one as well this morning. Yeah. How did you get on?
Well, I think Vicky and Matt have already kind of summed it up, but this was a brutal watch, but again a very important watch. It's really hard to critique a film like this. I don't think you can't really describe this film as film like in an entertainment sense. This is very much an experience, and by focusing on the call centre and not seeing actually what's happening, that almost that the effect that had on me was, I mean, it was so intense. I want to give a call out because to the actors, they were absolutely brilliant. To the way that they did it with the use of sound and how you hear the real voices. And there's one bit where they show on a camera the real people who were on the phones against the actors that were on the phones, and I think they made some really good choices there. But this is an important watch. It's a very difficult watch, but it's human testimony, and I think that's why it's important to watch it. And another thing I'll say is, one thing I will add is the level of bureaucracy that you experience with the people. You feel all those frustrations with them. You feel how they feel, and that meant when we all saw it together this morning. When we all came out, we were in floods of tears, all of us. We were devastated.
I don't want to put people off by saying that, but I agree with everything that the guys have said. And there's a point where he literally draws an infinity loop with the bureaucracy that he's got to get for this ambulance. It's 8 minutes down the road. So devastating. I mean, it's hard to critique a film like this. I would say two things. One, if I were to, it's reminded me a little bit of September the 5th, the story of the Munich crisis last year, where that was we were in a sort of, well, it was a TV studio, but you're set within a very claustrophobic environment, and you get that sense of helplessness and panic, and you really feel the emotional trauma of all the people involved. I don't want to add to anything that's already been said, except for one thing. It's showing, I believe, for at least a week at the Arts Picture House, and I strongly recommend anyone who's got any interest in cinema and thinks cinema has any relevance in the modern world to go and see this film. You won't be disappointed. You will be grateful that you did go and see it. And I would strongly make a pitch for people to go and see it if they've got the time this week.
Well, there we go. That's the voice of Hind Rajab. It's a certificate 15 for distressing scenes. And as Nick alludes to, this is showing at the Picture House.
Cambridge Radio.
Whether it's United, City or Histon, from the terraces to the touchline, we've got you covered. Each week, From the Terraces brings you proper football chat, the talking points, post-match reaction, and the stories you're all debating in the stands.
The one thing we've lacked this season has been consistency from game to game.
This is the show where you can air your views, listen to interviews, and engage in all of the local football news.
I was in that and the family stand, so I could see what was going on so clearly when you're up above all that, and I thought he got clattered in the box. It looked like a penalty to me.
From the Terraces, online whenever you want, and Sunday at 6 on Cambridge Radio.
So, you're looking to buy something that's completely unique. Then it's time you discovered the All Saints Garden Art and Craft Market. Showcasing specialists in artisan crafts, our award-winning traditional art and craft market offers everything from jewellery to ceramics, greetings cards to handmade cosmetics, art to leather, and so much more. Meet the maker every Saturday between 10 and 5 in All Saints Garden on Trinity Street in Cambridge.
We are Cambridge.
Cambridge Radio.
Welcome back to the Cambridge Film Show. I'm Luke Irwin, and with me today is a rather packed studio. We have Emma, Nick, Matt, Yoz and Vicky. If you're just joining us, I'm not going to lie, it's been a pretty tough start to the year with some pretty heavy films, but I promise things are about to pick up. As always, you can listen back to today's show and all of our previous ones online. We're available as a podcast on your smart speaker and on YouTube. You can find us on the Radio Player app or by searching Cambridge Film Show wherever you get your audio. As for today, it's time to see Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson show off their singing prowess as they form a Neil Diamond tribute act. What could possibly go wrong?
I'm not a songwriter, I'm not a sex symbol, but I am an entertainer.
I don't want to be a hairdresser, I want to sing, I want to dance, I want to be able to say, look at me, I made it.
Look at the night.
You're supposed to be Loretta Lynn?
Oh, Patsy Cline. My boobs were just a bit bigger, I could be Dolly.
You're a blonde?
Oh boy, am I.
I can begin to know when.
You know know who you'd be perfect for? Neil Diamond.
We fill it up with only two.
That was the trailer for Song Sung Blue, named after one of the many Neil Diamond songs that isn't Sweet Caroline. And it turns out the guy has a rich catalogue and fans so dedicated that they will turn out to see not only the man himself, but an impersonator, or I guess we should say interpreter. This is based on the true story of the musical duo Lightning and Thunder, consisting of husband and wife team Don and Claire Sardina. But Nick, this is hardly an overnight success story for them.
No, it isn't. And by the way, if I say Neil Young, I keep saying Neil Young when I mean Neil Diamond. But anyway, and I'm conscious that I always get names wrong in these things. Anyway, this is not the film. A lot of people have said, "Oh, I don't really want to go and see a biopic of Neil Diamond." This is not a biopic of Neil Diamond, just to reiterate that, because this is the story of a tribute act, as you say, Lightning and Thunder, and it's closer, if it's closest to anything tonally, and I'm sure everyone is going to nod at this, it's probably Iron Claw. I know, Emma, you picked up on that, but I definitely picked up on that. In that it's about the story of a relationship. These two people find each other. Thunder and Lightning find each other. They form this band. They have a level of success, then a level of... tragedy. Yes, I was going to use the word tragedy. I don't want to give too much when it's not tragedy. It's tragedy with a small t, because they can overcome the tragedy and get through their adversity and get back to some way forward, and then certain things happen at the end which adds another level of pathos to the whole drama. So what I'm trying to say here is it's not the film you think it starts out to be. What I liked about it, first thing, Kate Hudson, fantastic, career best performance as far as I'm concerned. Who knew she could do this sort of thing so well? I thought she was wonderful. Hugh Jackman in his underpants, Marks and Spencer's underpants. There's a scene in the middle, for those that see it, you'll get what I mean. Ridiculous. But I like the fact that he takes the mickey out of himself quite a lot. So, again, I was charmed by that. It's too long. As soon as it hit the 90-minute mark, it should have finished, but it goes on for over 2 hours. So it is too long. But at the end of the day, it's shameless. I think, Luke, you said, something about being another saccharine film. Look, this is the third film that we're being shamelessly manipulated at an emotional level on, because it is quite an emotional film. But I was kind of like, well, that's a Neil Diamond song. As far as I'm quite happy to go with this. This is the cheese and the schmaltz. I think I enjoyed it because I was unexpectedly surprised at what the film was about and where it landed. So for me, it was a thumbs up, surprisingly.
Well, Emma, talk about not wanting to be surprised. I am picturing you as a Neil Diamond fan.
Well, actually, I've got
weapons grade songs.
No, my mother was the most enormous Neil Diamond song, and it's not giving anything away. So we actually cremated her to I Am, I Said, which is so... Neil Diamond has such an incredibly special place in my heart, and I think they did him, and I think they did this whole story proud. It is the truth. Kate Hudson completely disappears in the role of this sort of quite unglamorous Milwaukee single mother who then sort of handily falls in love, but the lack of glamour, I think, in both their performances, like Nick alluded to, is really refreshing. It is a little bit long, but that means they get to shove even more Neil Diamond songs in that don't get heard often enough, and I just thought it was I was always going to go and see it, but it was for me as well a really pleasant surprise, because actually it was a much better and grittier and more rounded film I thought it was going to be, and a lot of that is the chemistry between Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson, which I didn't expect to see.
I would definitely expect... Nick, you said that who knew Kate Hudson had this in there. If you'd seen Almost Famous 25 years ago, it really feels like...
a companion piece.
Yeah, it really feels like, where has this version of her been for the past 25 years? Yours, how did you like this film?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as everyone else. I really like this. Like Nick, I had no idea what to expect. I was one of those people that went into this thinking it's a Neil Diamond biopic. I'm not a massive fan of his, but whatever. And actually, I got so much more than that. Career best performance from Hudson, I think. And I know some people have had issues with the kind of tonal shifts between the sort of tragedy and then the musical, singing, la la la. I didn't mind that. I could quite happily overlook that, because I think there was something really quite real about this, and I really like the connection between Jackman and Hudson too. So I would recommend it.
I think that reflects Neil Young's Neil Young. Damn it! See, I knew I would. Neil Diamond's songs, because that's the tragedy of the yin and yang and tragedy of life. Life never runs smooth, and so I thought that kind of worked quite well against the backdrop of a Neil Diamond track.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, you're the only one that's not spoken so far. We've had a disappointing lack of consensus throughout today's show, so I'm really hoping that you hated this film.
No, I actually did quite like it. I thought I was going to hate it. I certainly hated the trailer, or I hated my impression of what the trailer was portraying, but the trailer isn't the film at all. I mean, I would go as far as to say the trailer is lying to you, because the trailer portrays a very jaunty, upbeat rags to riches, and what we get is a more real life story where tragedy can strike at any time for no reason, and you have to adapt to that and deal with it. And ironically, after saying I hated the film the trailer was portraying, I actually did really enjoy the first hour. I thought it was really fun and funny, and I don't know Neil Diamond, so I was particularly enjoying the repeated running joke of someone saying, "Oh, you're going to play Sweet Caroline?" and Hugh Jackman replying, "He's got hundreds of great songs." But then the tragedy comes, and it's brutal, and then we get another maybe 40 minutes of really bleak cinema that just gives you total whiplash before we then get a little bit of hope towards the end. So I'd say it definitely works at what it's trying to do, but I don't think you would put up with this level of whiplash were it not based on a true story. The tragedy is too random.
Thus Iron Claw, you see. That's
thus Iron Claw, indeed. You wouldn't accept characters being treated like this in a work of fiction. It's only because it's based on reality that you'd even put up with it.
Well, there we go, another glowing review of a film. I think we've sort of alluded to this, but this isn't a film to go and see just because you like Neil Diamond. I think you will get a lot out of this, even if you've only heard the one Neil Diamond song. In fact, you may get more out of it.
Yeah, because you're going to discover all the Neil Diamond songs.
Anyway, that's Song Sung Blue. It's a certificate 12A, and it is showing at the Everyman.
Well, going from an unexpected gem from the team to one of the other nailed-on Oscar certs to be hitting our screens this January. Hold on to your paddles. It's Marty Supreme.
I have a purpose.
Okay. Let me ask you something. Do you make money at this little table tennis thing?
Not yet.
Do you have a job?
No. Backhand! Backhand! Forehand!
How do you live?
Well, I live with the confidence if I believe in myself, the money will follow.
And what do you plan to do if this whole dream of yours doesn't work out?
That doesn't even enter my consciousness.
Maybe it should.
Josh Safdie returns to the screens in blistering form with the chaotic story of Marty Mouser, played by Timothée Chalamet, who is leaving nothing on the floor in this performance. He just wants to be the best ping pong player in the world, and he's going to let nothing, not a lack of money, nor mobsters, nor pregnant girlfriends, nor older lovers, nor runaway dogs, nor actually not being the best in the world is going to stop him. Matt, this description or that description barely touches the edges, I think, of what this 2.5 hour film brings to the screen. But at its heart, I guess it is a sports movie, and you do love a sports movie. Did you love this?
Yeah, I mean, I did. I am the sports movie guy. I love the structure of a sports movie and the sort of ups and downs and the triumph over adversity. But as you say, there is a fair amount of table tennis or ping pong in this, but that's very much not the focus. What we've got is a character study of a man who will do anything to live his dream and will sacrifice anyone around him in service of that. The sort of image I had in my head was of a rocket ship taking off. A rocket starts massive, and as each part is used up, it's dropped away from the remaining part until what actually reaches space is just this one tiny little bit. And that's kind of what we have here. He wants to, in this case, get a rematch with his table tennis nemesis, and he is willing to ruin any other relationship in his life in service of that. And the sort of structure of the film is we'll sort of see him use someone and then later realize that he has to actually go back and humiliate himself to try and rebuild that relationship. And so that's shown most vigorously when he receives a bit of a paddling on the rear from a table tennis racket as the sort of depth of his depravity that he's been reduced to. Yeah, I absolutely love this. I thought it was gripping for all of the 2.5 hours. It's always kind of awkward when a directing duo split up and it immediately becomes clear who the talented one was, because we've also had the Smashing Machine this year, which sort of came and went with no fanfare, but this really did capture the anxiety and intensity of Uncut Gems and Good Time, and I think this is one I definitely want to see again and we'll come back to many times.
You pinched one of my questions, Sarah, I must admit, which is about, to basically say this has obviously been a huge hit after the dismal failure, shall we say, of the Smashing Machine. Vicky, this supporting cast is absolutely loaded. I mean, including like Tyler, the Creator, and Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, but even, and Gwyneth Paltrow. It's just, it's stuffed full. Who stood out for you?
I think a big part for me, Kevin O'Leary, who plays...
Mr. Wonderful? Yeah.
It is, absolutely. Who plays Milton Rockwell is such a... someone that you didn't expect to be such a dominating part of the second half of this film. And when you're already running on full adrenaline, there's a lot of adrenaline-filled films this week, but this one it takes and I knew what was coming from Uncut Gems. I knew there was going to be this kind of fast-paced, sick feeling of terrible events that I was going to encounter. But Milton Rockwell is one of those dominating figures that you think is on your side and is absolutely not. It is just it's all about the money and who has it and who doesn't. And I think he definitely is a good powerhouse showing that. And then saying Rachel Meisler, who played by Odessa Ezion, was incredible. I think that girl is exactly where she wanted to be, and she was right by Marty Mouser's side throughout all of this, whether to her own detriment, bless her, but at the same time, all of these characters are adorned with him. They all have gotten themselves in these situations because he's such a charismatic powerhouse. You can't help but fall by his side or want to help or become part of a scheme. And the same with Tyler, the Creator's character. They all end up in this situation because they just want to be a part of his story. And I think Timothée Chalamet, although filled with wonderful supporting characters, is definitely the forefront of this in dragging them all along with them to everybody's pain and sadness. He is there, and he just wants as much as he can get from everybody, and I think all the performance really matches that.
They are as committed to him as he is committed to ping pong. I loved Matt's rocket analogy, I must admit. Yours, I haven't seen Uncut Gems, and I did find this I found this film experience relatively tiring. I mean,
it's relentless.
Accomplice, but it is, it's 2.5 hours, and it is it's non-stop. Did you like it as much as Uncut Gems? Were you expecting to love it? Did you see the Smashing Machine even?
I didn't see the Smashing Machine. That's still on my list, but I have seen Uncut Gems. I did like this, but perhaps not as much as everybody else. I was a real big fan of sort of Safdie's frenetic, let's say, style in Uncut Gems, and this is very much at play here, but it didn't always land with me. It's very ambitious. There's the pacing, the cinematography, all of that is it's something to admire, but in terms of the kind of narrative arc, sometimes it lent so much on the kind of absurdity that bits of it felt forced. We've talked about some other films that were a bit more grounded, and I there were times where they were going into kind of storylines where I just thought, well, this isn't really landing with me. So I'm a little bit on the fence with this one. I did think Chalamet is absolutely a tour de force on this. I mean, he is on fire. This role was made for him, and I did really like him. And I agree with Vicky that Odessa Ezion is absolutely brilliant in this too, along with a lot of other people. I liked seeing Penn or Teller. Can't remember which one it was. This is good, but I will say it's good though.
I'm kind of with you. I thought the first hour was some of the best cinema I've seen in like 12 months. But I did, by the end of it, I was like, wow, maybe we could have taken just some of this out, because I did feel the running time. Luke, have you seen this?
I have not, no.
Oh, okay, Nick, then I'm going to come to you last. It's great. Everyone's getting to answer on everything. You've got to be quick, though.
I'll be very quick. I haven't much to add to what Yossi said. I'm sort of in Yossi's camp on this one. I'll add two things. Odessa Ezion was brilliant. I also, Abel Ferreira's understudy in A Mafia Menace, I thought was great. Apparently Charlemagne started playing table tennis 6 years ago when they first suggested the production of this, and had table tennis.
Was he in character as Bob Dylan playing table tennis? He is quite phenomenal.
Well, apparently when he was doing June, he had a table tennis set on a table tennis thing on set. So and that did come through. For me, the big issue for it, where I'm in Yossi's camp on this, was that the payoff at the end. It was because it was so long and so very ambitious. I didn't really care by the end, unlike Uncut Gems, where you didn't really you went with the right. It was a roller coaster ride. You were expected here, I felt, to have some sort of emotional connection with Marty Supreme, and you're rooting for him. By the end, I didn't really, and then the final scene didn't really work for me. So I felt a little let down by the end. But it's a roller coaster, all right.
It can sometimes be tough. You're right, though. When the centre of your film is so unlikable, it can sometimes be tough to carry the audience with you for the entire way. But I think in general, it's a must see. It's Marty Supreme. It's a certificate 12A, and it's showing at all 3 Cambridge cinemas.
Next up, we're heading over to Norway and our second foreign language film of the day in Sentimental Value. Again, there's no trailer for this one, so let me briefly set the scene. The film stars Renata Reinsve and Inga Ibsdotter Lilius as sisters who attempt to reunite with their estranged father, a once renowned film director played by Stellan Skarsgård. The father, however, is focusing his attention on what he hopes to be his comeback film. He wants his daughter, a successful stage actress, to take a starring role, but after she declines the offer, he instead casts a young Hollywood star who is now caught in the middle of a complex family dynamic. We don't have a lot of time to talk on this, so I'm just going to let everybody who has seen this have 1 minute on it each. I'll start with Emma.
Oh, my goodness me, OK. Well, The Worst Person in the World was my absolute favourite film of that year. I think it was 2019 that came out. So I do think that when I first saw this film, it suffered a bit in comparison. However, the more I've sat with it, and when I listened to Stellan Skarsgård's Golden Globes acceptance speech as well, when he reminded me, this is a small film. This is not a flashy film. This is a small film about family, about the dynamics, about the complexities that can be within that, also about art, and how important it is that we continue to make art, and how different people in families can be affected by different things, even though you can still be close. I think it's a really hard film to pigeonhole, and perhaps I didn't find it as interesting as I was hoping I would do, but I do think I'm going to go back and rewatch it. And Joachim Trier again, the house in this, their old family home that they've gone back to, is such a character in it, and is filmed so beautifully. It is a very sedate and regal film.
I think Joachim does an incredible job of making the set and the location a real character in all of his films, and that's why you become so involved with them. The same as Emma, Worst Person in the World was my favourite film of that year. I thought Renata was a very free, wonderful actress that coming out of that, and I think she's definitely claimed in interviews that this was a more restricted and controlled performance, but she still absolutely dominates. It's a gorgeous film that really shows how, you know, parents and family dynamics can really affect you further in life. And essentially from this performance in general, it really has stayed with me. It's a much more gentler film than Worst Person in the World, but I think it is the longest, it has a longer impression in my head throughout the week that I've just gone back and rethought parts of it. And that's because I think all the characters are a really good symbol for something that could affect you in your own life.
Thank you very much. That's Sentimental Value. I think that's everyone who's seen it. That's a certificate 15 and is showing at the Light and the Picture House. Limited screenings at both, so if you want to catch it, please do check out in advance.
Thank you, Luke. Let's check in on our final film and take a little trip.
On vacation, you can be anyone you want.
Who wants to go skinny dipping?
Alex does not.
Maybe vacation Alex does. That's why I want to travel. You can actually be who you want to be instead of who they say you are.
How about every summer, wherever we are, we meet somewhere in the world for a trip?
Deal. Based on Emily Henry's best-selling novel, People We Meet on Vacation brings us Poppy and Alex, pals who meet at college, and despite their clearly mismatched personalities, they always take a trip together every year where they can let loose. But things get complicated when on a trip with their respective other partners, they find out that perhaps they are not so mismatched. Colour me shocked. Matt, I'm going to come to you because I think you read the book, right?
Yeah,
Is it a series of books?
I think it's just one book.
Just one book. Shut up, Emma. Got that right. How did you think of it? Was it a great adaptation?
I think it was a pretty solid adaptation. I mean, it suffered a little bit from the sort of differences between a novel and a film. In the novel, we get 10 distinct summer holidays of Poppy and Alex, and we get to see their relationship kind of change and blossom more naturally, whereas in the film, by its very nature, you couldn't have 10 distinct holidays. It would be too rushed. So certain events have to be compressed. But I thought all the key points were there. It's not a rom-com in the typical sense of contrived, over-the-top situations. It's very much a believable story of two characters and charting their own feelings about each other. I thought the central chemistry between Emily Barder and Tom Blythe was fantastic, and if that's there, then the film is going to work. And I think if you're a fan of the book, you will enjoy this. it's a heck of a lot better than the average Netflix rom-com, I'll say that.
I did sit there and think, Netflix needs to do more of this. You said rom-com. I got a kind of When Harry Met Sally vibe from this, the queen of all rom-coms, if you like, Luke. But
that's the film, not me.
Well, yeah, sorry. I was going to say the pinnacle of all rom-coms, but you are a rom-com king, obviously, Luke. So bringing the two together, because like Matt said, it wasn't like a laugh-out-loud comedy, but I did think the romance was really believable and tangible.
I love this film. Matt's really hit the nail on the head with the only real flaw of this film, which is the structure works in a book, but it doesn't work in a film, where the extended meet cute makes the film structurally unsound, where you get about 20 or 30 minutes of the opening sequence, and then the actual holidays themselves feel condensed in a way that the pacing is off. But if I've said this once, I've said this 1,000 times. A rom-com lives or dies based on how much you enjoy the company of the two main characters. And I'd not seen either of them before. Tom Blythe, the male lead, he's appearing in Wasteland.
Oh, he looks totally different
and he looks completely different. And I think that goes to show that this is acting as much as any other kind of acting. And I thought the chemistry between them, this is almost like a reverse When Harry Met Sally, because the girl is the bouncy fun one and the guy is the more staid one, and I just really enjoyed the time they spent together. I loved this film. I'm really annoyed that I could have talked about this film for about 20 minutes.
You scheduled the show, Luke, and you put it at the end, which is very selfless of you. Yossi, you've got... Yossi's like, talk more. I was going to say you've got 30 seconds.
Well, I have 30 seconds, but I don't want to use them. I want Luke to carry on because I didn't like this film very much, so I don't want to end on a bad note.
Well, I think Luke, as our rom-com king, has given this a certain hive, and I think you should watch it. I really enjoyed it. I think Netflix did this really, really well.
I completely agree, yeah.
Good, right. It's a Certificate 12 for mild sex references. It's on Netflix, like we said. I think it's a #1 film, so it's hard to miss. Now, that is all we have time for this week. It was, as we said, a really packed show, and I don't think next week is going to be all that much different. We're going to have, is this thing turned on yet? Is this switched on yet? Is this thing on? The John Bishop thing, the John Bishop Company. We're going to have Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice, which is already Vicky Ayres' film of the year, and we didn't even get a chance to do The Rip, which was Netflix's big hit from yesterday with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. So much to tune in for. Thank you so much for listening this week. It's goodbye from all of us.
Goodbye. Bye.